Welcome to Ancient Chronicles AI. Here, we cross the line between what is known and what is denied, stepping into the forbidden visions of Ezra. Chapter 1. The Night of the Shattered Stars. Ezra awoke from uneasy dreams as a tremor rippled through the heavens, shaking the silence of the night like a warning from beyond the veil. The stars above him flickered violently, their ancient harmony breaking as though an unseen hand had struck the firmament. A single crack of light tore across the sky, not like lightning, but like the splitting of a celestial wall long thought unbreakable. The air grew heavy, vibrating with a sound too deep for mortal ears, yet Ezra felt it resonate within the marrow of his soul. His spirit rose beyond the limits of flesh, drawn upward as though summoned by a force older than creation itself. The constellations twisted into unfamiliar shapes, forming symbols he had never learned yet somehow understood. A cold wind swept across the earth, carrying whispers in a language that had not been spoken since the dawn of the first covenant. Ezra's heart pounded as the heavens peeled open, revealing a churning abyss of light and shadow locked in silent conflict. From within the rupture, a presence stirred vast, watchful, and aware of him in a way no mortal should ever be known. The stars shattered into fragments of fire, raining down visions that burned themselves into Ezra's mind like divine inscriptions. He saw thrones overturned, angels veiled in mourning, and a great book sealed with 7 layers of living flame. The sky closed as suddenly as it had opened, leaving the night eerily still, as though creation itself held its breath. Ezra fell to his knees, trembling, knowing that what he had witnessed was not meant for human eyes. Yet the vision clung to him like a mark, a summons that would not release him until its purpose was fulfilled. Ezra is awakened by a trembling in the heavens, witnessing a celestial rupture that only his spirit can perceive, marking the beginning of visions that will reshape his destiny and the fate of ages to come. Chapter 2. The scroll that was not meant to be found, the ruins of the old sanctuary, lay silent beneath the moon, their broken stones whispering memories of prayers long forgotten. Ezra walked among them with cautious reverence, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching from the shadows of history. A faint tremor stirred beneath his feet, as though the earth itself sought to draw his attention to something buried deep within. He knelt beside a shattered altar, brushing away centuries of dust to reveal a narrow fissure glowing with an otherworldly pale light. The air thickened around him, humming with a presence that felt neither welcoming nor hostile, but expectant. Ezra reached into the crevice, his fingers brushing against something smooth, ancient, and warm as though alive. He pulled forth a scroll wrapped in darkened leather, its surface etched with symbols that twisted like living fire. The markings pulsed faintly, older than Israel, older than the prophets, older even than the first covenant carved in stone. A chill ran through him as he realized the scroll resisted his touch, as if aware of the one who dared disturb its rest. The sanctuary walls groaned, releasing a gust of cold wind that carried the scent of forgotten incense and distant thunder. Ezra held the scroll to his chest, feeling its weight press against his spirit rather than his hands. Visions flickered at the edges of his sight wings of shadow, thrones overturned, and a voice calling his name from beyond the veil. He knew then that this scroll had not been lost, but hidden, sealed away to protect the world from what it contained. And yet, by divine or dreadful design, it had chosen him. He discovers an ancient scroll, hidden beneath the ruins of the old sanctuary, sealed with symbols older than Israel itself, awakening a destiny that will draw him deeper into the forbidden mysteries of heaven and earth. Chapter 3. The Voice Beyond the Veil. Night pressed heavily upon Ezra as he sat beside the forbidden scroll, its symbols pulsing like embers, waiting for breath. A sudden stillness fell over the world, so complete that even the wind dared not disturb the silence. The air thickened with an unseen presence, bending the shadows as though something vast moved just beyond mortal sight. Ezra felt his spirit pulled upward, not by force, but by a summons older than the foundations of the earth. A thin veil of light unfurled before him, shimmering like a curtain, woven from the breath of angels. From behind it came a whisper soft, distant, yet carrying the weight of mountains and the sorrow of ages. The voice spoke his name, not as a question, but as a remembrance, as though it had known him long before he was born. Ezra trembled, for the sound was neither human nor angelic, but something that dwelled between worlds. The veil rippled, revealing glimpses of realms layered atop one another like pages of a living book. He saw a throne shrouded in mourning, its guardian absent, its light dimmed by a grief too deep for creation to bear. He saw a river of souls flowing backward through time, returning to the moment before their first breath. He saw a great serpent of shadow coiled around the pillars of heaven, waiting for the hour of its release. The voice spoke again, revealing truths that seared themselves into his mind like fire carved into stone. Ezra cried out, for the visions were too vast, too terrible, too holy for mortal understanding. The veil snapped shut, leaving him gasping, clutching the scroll as though it were the only anchor left in a world suddenly made strange. A divine otherworldly presence speaks to Ezra, revealing visions that no mortal was ever meant to behold, marking him as the unwilling bearer of secrets that tremble at the edge of eternity. Chapter 4. The Descent into the Chamber of Echoes. The earth groaned beneath Ezra's feet as though something ancient stirred in its depths, calling him by name. A fissure opened among the sanctuary ruins, releasing a breath of cold air that smelled of stone, memory, and forgotten ages. Ezra felt the pull immediately, not upon his body, but upon his spirit, as though an unseen hand beckoned him downward. He stepped into the darkness, guided only by the faint glow of the forbidden scroll pressed against his chest. The passage spiraled deep beneath the earth, its walls carved with symbols that shifted like shadows learning to speak. Whispers drifted through the tunnel, echoing with voices that sounded both distant and impossibly near. Ezra descended further, feeling time loosen around him, as though each step carried him into an era before the world was formed. A pale light emerged ahead, flickering like the reflection of stars upon water hidden far below the surface. He entered a vast chamber where the ceiling shimmered with memory's visions suspended like constellations, trapped in stone. At the center stood figures of immense stature, neither fully corporeal nor fully spirit, their wings folded in solemn stillness. These were the forgotten angels, guardians of creation's earliest echoes, their faces veiled by the weight of what they remembered. Their eyes opened as Ezra approached, glowing with recognition, sorrow, and a warning older than prophecy. The chamber trembled as the scroll in his hands pulsed, awakening the memories sealed within the angels' silent vigil. Ezra felt their knowledge brush against his mind, vast, luminous, and perilous, threatening to unravel the boundaries of his humanity. He realized then that he had not discovered this place by chance. He had been summoned to witness what no mortal was meant to endure. Ezra is drawn into a hidden realm beneath the earth, where forgotten angels guard the memories of creation, and his descent marks the beginning of revelations that will reshape the fate of heaven and man alike. Chapter 5. The Vision of the Broken Thrones. The chamber darkened around Ezra as the forbidden scroll unfurled itself, its symbols igniting with a fire that cast no warmth. A great trembling seized the air, and the walls of the earth dissolved into a horizon of blinding light and fathomless shadow. Ezra found himself standing before a vast celestial court, its thrones rising like mountains carved from living radiance. One by one, the thrones flickered, their brilliance dimming as though a great grief had passed over the heavens. He saw angels of immeasurable stature bow their heads, their wings trembling beneath the weight of an unspoken sorrow. A single throne cracked down its center, releasing a shockwave that rippled through the firmament like a wound in eternity. From the fracture spilled a torrent of shadow, coiling upward like smoke, seeking to choke the very breath of creation. Ezra watched as a host of celestial beings fell from their stations, their light torn from them like garments stripped in judgment. Their cries echoed through the realms, not in rebellion alone, but in anguish for the order they had shattered. The heavens reeled as constellations broke apart, scattering like embers cast from a dying fire. Ezra saw the consequences unfold, worlds trembling, rivers of time bending, and the fragile balance of creation swaying on the edge of ruin. A great hand of light reached out to steady the cosmos, but even its touch could not fully mend what had been broken. The fallen thrones smoldered, their ruins whispering of a rebellion that had scarred the very bones of existence. Ezra felt the vision carve itself into his spirit, branding him with the knowledge that divine order, though eternal, was not unassailable. The light faded, leaving him trembling in the chamber, the echoes of celestial collapse still ringing in his soul. He witnesses the fall of celestial powers, seeing the cosmic consequences of rebellion and the fragility of divine order, and he understands that the heavens themselves can bleed when truth is forsaken. Chapter 6. The River of Unborn Days. The chamber of echoes dissolved around Ezra, replaced by a horizon of shimmering light that rippled like a sea made of memory. A soft hum rose from the depths, vibrating through his bones as though the world itself were preparing to speak. Before him stretched a river unlike any earthly water, flowing in both directions at once, its currents woven from moments yet to be. The surface glimmered with shifting vision cities, rising and falling, children not yet born, wars that had not begun, and peace that had not yet been chosen. Ezra stepped closer, and the river responded, lifting tendrils of luminous mist that curled around him like curious spirits. Each tendril carried a fragment of time, a glimpse of futures branching like living vines across the tapestry of creation. He saw a king crowned in glory, only to fall by his own pride. He saw a shepherd rise to greatness through humility and sorrow. He saw nations born from dust, their destinies shaped by choices not yet made, their triumphs and tragedies shimmering like reflections on water. The river surged, revealing darker currents, shadows of futures twisted by fear, greed, and the whisper of ancient rebellion. Ezra felt his mind strain as the visions multiplied, each possibility unfolding into countless others, a storm of unborn days threatening to consume him. He reached out instinctively, and the river recoiled, as though warning him that no mortal hand could grasp the flow of time without being unmade. A voice rose from the depths, gentle, sorrowful, and immeasurably old, telling him that time was a living covenant, not a path to be mastered. The river dimmed, its brilliance softening into a single thread of light that wound itself around Ezra's heart like a promise. He staggered back as the vision faded, the chamber returning with a rush of cold air and the distant echo of angelic wings. Ezra knew then that he had glimpsed not destiny, but the fragile, shifting breath of creation itself. Ezra is shown the flow of time itself, glimpsing futures that shift like living water and threaten to overwhelm his mind, leaving him marked by the knowledge that every moment is a choice upon which worlds may rise or fall. Chapter 7. The shadow that knows his name. The last echoes of the river of unborn days faded, leaving Ezra suspended in a silence too deep to belong to the living. A chill crept across the chamber, dimming the angelic lights until only the faint glow of the forbidden scroll remained. The air thickened, as though an unseen presence pressed against the walls, searching for a way into the world of flesh. Ezra felt a tremor in his spirit, a disturbance not of earth or heaven, but of something that moved between them. A ripple of darkness gathered at the far end of the chamber, coiling like smoke that refused to rise. It pulsed once, twice, then unfurled into a shape that was not a shape, a shadow that seemed carved from the absence of light. Ezra tried to avert his gaze, but the darkness followed him, bending the space around him as though it were alive. A whisper rose from within its soft serpentine, and spoken in a voice that carried the weight of ancient rebellion. It spoke his name, not as a stranger would, but as one who had known him long before his first breath, long before his ancestors walked the earth. Ezra staggered back, for the sound of his name on that tongue felt like a hand reaching into his soul. The shadow swelled, revealing glimpses of eyes that were not eyes, watching him with hunger, sharpened by ages of exile. It reached toward him, its form stretching like a claw of living night, seeking the warmth of a vessel it could inhabit. The angels in the chamber stirred, their wings trembling with a fear Ezra had never imagined celestial beings could feel. The scroll in his hands ignited with a blinding light, forcing the shadow to recoil with a hiss that shook the foundations of the earth. But even as it withdrew, it whispered a final truth that froze Ezra's blood. You cannot flee what already knows you. A dark presence emerges from the visions, recognizing Ezra and seeking to claim him as a vessel for its return, marking him as the chosen prey of a power that has waited ages for a name to call its own. Chapter 8. The Trial of the Seven Lamps. The forgotten angels parted in silence as a circular chamber emerged from the darkness, its floor carved with 7 concentric rings of ancient light. At the center stood 7 lamps, each burning with a flame of a different hue, their glow shifting like living judgment. A voice not angelic, not mortal declared that Ezra must walk the rings and face what dwelled within each flame. The first lamp flared, revealing an illusion of his childhood home, warm and whole, tempting him to abandon the path and return to a life untouched by destiny. Ezra stepped through it, watching the illusion dissolve into ash, knowing that innocence could not be reclaimed once truth had been seen. The second lamp ignited, showing him a future of power and renown, where nations bowed to his wisdom and kings sought his counsel. He felt the pull of pride, sweet as honey, but he turned away, refusing a glory that would corrupt the purpose he had been given. The third lamp erupted with visions of fear shadows whispering his name, the dark presence rising, the world collapsing beneath its return. Ezra stood firm, trembling but unbroken, refusing to let terror dictate the path of his soul. The fourth lamp revealed a truth he wished he had never known, the suffering of those he loved, woven into the cost of his calling. Tears fell, but he accepted the burden, understanding that prophecy was never granted without sacrifice. The fifth lamp showed him a mirror of himself, twisted by doubt, consumed by the very visions he sought to understand. He reached out and shattered the reflection, choosing faith over the slow poison of despair. The sixth lamp burned with a cold white flame that stripped away every lie he had ever told, every weakness he had hidden. Ezra stood naked before the truth of his own soul, and though it wounded him, he did not turn away. The seventh lamp blazed with a brilliance that filled the chamber, revealing a path of light that led beyond the trial and into the unknown. Ezra stepped forward, purified by ordeal, strengthened by humility, and bound irrevocably to the destiny that awaited him. Ezra must confront illusions, truths, and temptations within a sacred trial that tests the purity of his soul, emerging tempered like a blade, forged for the battles of heaven and earth. Chapter 9. The Sealing of the Forbidden's Vision. The chamber dimmed as the 7 lamps faded, leaving Ezra standing alone beneath a sky of shifting, half-remembered stars. The forbidden scroll hovered before him, its symbols unraveling into threads of living fire that circled his trembling hands. A voice descended from the unseen heights vast, sorrowful, and absolute, commanding him to prepare his heart for the final revelation. Ezra felt the weight of eternity settle upon him as the scroll opened itself, revealing visions too immense for mortal sight. He saw the rise and fall of kingdoms not yet born, their destinies woven into patterns only heaven could decipher. He saw angels standing guard over secrets that could unmake the world if spoken aloud. He saw the shadow that knew his name stretching across ages, seeking cracks in the future through which it might return. The visions burned through him like lightning, illuminating truths that no human tongue could safely carry. Ezra cried out, begging for mercy, for the knowledge threatened to tear his spirit apart with its unbearable magnitude. The voice answered with a command that echoed through the chamber like the closing of a celestial gate. Write only what is given to be written. a great seal of light descended, pressing itself upon the scroll, binding the deepest visions behind 7 layers of divine decree. Ezra watched as the forbidden knowledge folded inward, hidden from the world, hidden even from himself. Only fragments remained, shadows of prophecy, glimpses of judgment, whispers of hope, enough to warn, but not enough to destroy. The scroll fell silent in his hands, its fire dimmed, its secrets locked away until the appointed hour. Ezra bowed his head, knowing he had become the keeper of a truth he could never fully speak. He is commanded to record only fragments of what he has seen, sealing the rest by divine decree to protect the world, becoming the guardian of a prophecy too dangerous to be revealed in full. Chapter 10. The prophet who walks between worlds, Ezra, emerged from the depths of the earth as dawn broke, the first light of morning bending strangely around him, as though recognizing what he had become. The forbidden scroll rested against his heart, silent now, yet heavy with the weight of secrets sealed by divine command. His footsteps felt unfamiliar upon the soil of his homeland, for he carried within him the echo of realms no mortal was meant to tread. The people who saw him sensed the change, stepping back in awe and fear, as though a shadow of heaven clung to his very breath. Ezra spoke little, for every word he uttered trembled with the memory of visions too vast to be shaped by human tongue. Children stared at him with wide eyes, sensing both the gentleness of a shepherd and the fire of the storm hidden beneath his calm. The elders gathered around him, seeking wisdom, but he offered only fragments truths permitted, warnings softened, mysteries veiled. He walked among his people as one who belonged to them, yet also as one who had already crossed the threshold of another world. At night he gazed at the stars, seeing not constellations, but thrones, wounds, and the silent watch of angels who remembered him. The shadow that knew his name lingered at the edges of his dreams, reminding him that the struggle between light and darkness was far from over. Ezra carried this burden without complaint, for he understood that prophecy was not a gift, but a covenant sealed in fire and sorrow. He became a bridge between realms, a living testament to the fragile thread that binds heaven and earth. Generations would speak of him as a prophet, but only he knew the truth, that he was merely a witness to what must one day come to pass. And though the visions remained sealed, their echo guided his steps, shaping the destiny of a people who did not yet know the storm approaching. Ezra returns to his people forever changed, carrying a burden of knowledge that shapes his destiny and the fate of generations, walking the narrow path between worlds as the guardian of truths too powerful to be spoken aloud. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss what comes next. Until then, stay curious, stay aware, and keep searching the shadows. Take care.